Kevin McAdoo was born on 26 September 1970 in Alaska at the old Elmendorf Base Hospital. He was the only child to very proud and doting parents, Helena and Richard McAdoo. His dad taught him how to hunt, fish, and took him flying. His mother took him to ride and compete in motocross every Sunday that the track was open. His great-uncle, Dick McAdoo, sparked his lifelong obsession with the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin also loved to skate and play hockey, and he was downright graceful to watch on skates. In the mid-1980s, the family moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, to be near family, his grandmother, his Uncle John, his Aunt Kim, and Cousin Allison. That is where Kevin earned his private pilot license from family friend Ernie Campa. In high school, Kevin made great money as a valet at West Palm's high-end beachfront hotel, The Breakers, where celebrities like Arnold Schwarzenegger got the chance to meet him. He was also a barback and a waiter, where he learned the finer points of setting a table and gained an appreciation for a good tuxedo. After high school, Kevin joined the Navy, where he was an avionics technician on F-14s and F-18s. He loved it and was backseat qualified. After 4 years honorable and distinguished service, he left the Navy to attend Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. During college, he worked as a bouncer at the Ocean Deck Bar on Daytona Beach. I don't know if he made any money, but I heard he had a lot of fun. He was also in Air Force ROTC, where he developed lifelong friends, some of whom you'll hear from soon. He then went to pilot training with a follow-on to his first assignment back to his home, Anchorage, Alaska. All along the way, he developed such dear friendships because he was the kind of a guy who was fiercely loyal, fun, and always up for any kind of adventure or merriment. He was also the kind of friend who kept in touch throughout the years. He would meet friends for lunch or dinner when they flew into town and call to check in on them routinely, or give them a shout-out when he saw that their team had won or lost. Kevin made friends wherever he went. He always made it his mission to find something in common with everyone he would meet and then to make that person smile. That was Kevin's motto, keep smiling.
Everybody, Mike Yates here. Hi to Julie, Satabria, and Amber. Both of you don't know me, but I've been a friend of your dad's for many years now, ever since college at Embry-Riddle in Daytona. We hung out a lot, we had classes together, and we were always up to no good. And Kevin was always, as you know, a fun, loving, and just happy-go-lucky guy that always stayed with me as a friend, as a good friend, and he's one of the few that I always kept in touch with no matter what. There were years where we hadn't seen each other, but we always messaged each other, we always emailed each other ever so often, and there's very few people I can say that about. So that speaks to your dad and the person he was and the person he means to me. Just a little background. We went to college together, as I said, then graduated together. We went in joined the Air Force, went to pilot training, ended up in Corpus Christi together where we had more fun, went off to C-130s, and then we'd cross paths every couple years or so. But like I said, we always kept in touch. It's tough to say goodbye. I still check his messages. I still look at what he texted me a month or two before it happened, and I'm never going to delete it because I think about Kevin a lot and the fun we had. So with that, I just want to say my goodbye, and I want you to rest in peace, brother, and I will see you again. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye, everybody.
Hi, I'm John, and I want to tell you about my friend Kevin. Kevin and I met at the 517th Airlift Squadron in Anchorage, Alaska. He was a young co-pilot. I was a young navigator. In particular, we deployed together to Japan for the very first time. I had never been overseas before. He had never been overseas before. And it was just great, trying to learn all these new things together at the same time. The switches were all different. The toilets were different. Everything was different. We might as well have been on Mars. Lodging was full. I think the president was in town, and they had to put us downtown in a really nice hotel. And we're overlooking the skyline of Tokyo, and we're having drinks in our room. And we just had a real moment together where we just could not believe that we were here. This is the beginning of our Air Force careers, and we were in downtown Japan having drinks. We just could not fathom that. It was a real lost in translation moment. The other part that really stuck out was we had a reporter that came and shadowed us. He was a local NBC Anchorage affiliate reporter and his cameraman, and he was doing a story on Kevin as a hometown hero, the hometown kid that made good. And after the camera was off, Kevin took this reporter under his wing, and we went out downtown Korea somewhere. And we just had a great night. We ate, we shopped, bar hopped, juicy bars. At the end of the night, the reporter didn't want to go home, and he proposed to a Russian dancer. I mean, it was just a night to remember. But that was Kevin. Kevin was always fun. Compare that to years later. He's married to Julie, he's got 2 beautiful girls, but he was still the fun-loving Kevin. I don't care what we do, if it's a low-level tactical or trying to put 2 little girls down for a nap, Kevin always brought the fun. And we need fun in this world. So, in toast to that night, I'm going to toast with some Korean soju. Here's to you, Kevin. I'm going to miss you, buddy.
First, Julie, thank you for putting this together so that we could all honor and remember Kevin. He was a great friend, a great son, father, husband, and to me, he was like a brother. I miss him dearly. I think of him all the time. And although he's gone, we'll always remember him. I'll never forget him and his friendship. You know, when Julie said that she was putting this together and she wanted us to say something, maybe raise a glass, propose a toast, something to honor and remember him, even maybe a story. Well, the story piece definitely came to mind right away, because every time Kevin and I got together, there was one particular story that he liked to bring up, and he would laugh and laugh about it and chuckle, because he wanted to always bring up the fact that it was my fault that we failed physics, not once, but twice. Yep. As it goes, we would leave class from ROTC in uniform and had to make a pit stop at the cafeteria on the way to physics. And one of us would take our time eating, not saying it was just me, but it ended up we would be late for physics. And you couldn't go to class late in uniform because that just really looked bad. So we happened to miss 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 classes, and well, there you have it. We didn't pass. I have a lot of other great stories about Kevin, times with him and his family. But to keep it short, you know, I'll always remember those good times, from fishing in Alaska to hunting in Arkansas, to hanging out together and barbecuing and having a beer, from flying airplanes together. All those things I will remember and cherish forever. So to our brother, may he rest in peace, and may we never forget. I love you, Kevin.
Hey everyone, this is Mac's friend Blair Kaiser from the Air Force days. We met in pilot training and stayed good friends for well over 20 years after that. First, send my love to Julie and Satabria, Amber, and Helena on this 1-year anniversary. Real quick, my favorite memories of Mac, I'd have to say, were the costume parties we used to throw when we lived together as roommates, both in Alaska and Little Rock. I don't know if anyone remembers the 70s rock star parties and the groupies who loved them. But Mac went as Slash and I went as Rod Stewart, which is pretty emblematic of how different we were. But man, we had a good time. My favorite story about Mac was motocross. When we were roommates in Alaska, I didn't believe him when he said he was going to start racing again. But then he went out and bought the bike, but didn't have anything to haul it around. So he sold his Durango and traded it in for a big Dodge Ram pickup truck. He came back from the motocross track down at Kincaid Park, and he was all fired up. And he said, "Man, I'm burning some hot laps. You got to come watch me." And I came out, and he was still racing at age about 30 in the novice division that he left off 15 years earlier. And I saw him go around a turn on the last lap and kick his foot out and knock over a 13-year-old on his way to the line. Man, he was fired up. Mac loved his racing. Finally, the thing I loved most about Mac was not only was he a great storyteller, but Mac was a great listener. He made you feel really good to be around, and always showed a lot of interest in you and your stories. Remember how he'd always say, "Wow," or "No way." Those were his two catchphrases. Mac truly was a great friend. We love you, Mac. We miss you. You'll always be in our hearts. Thanks for letting me participate. Julie, all my love to you and the girls.
Julie, Satabria, Amber, Helena, the McAdoo family, and friends. I wanted to shoot this video from a C-130, but security forces wouldn't let me on the flight line this afternoon. So my next best option was to come to the Veterans Memorial Park here on base at Dobbins Air Force Base. Again, I wanted to extend my condolences to the entire family. This loss has been tragic for everybody who knew Kevin. I came to know Kevin when I arrived at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach. Air Force ROTC, Det 157, whoop. The connection and friendship was immediate. Kevin was an absolute great guy. I used to love riding motorcycles with Kevin and Rourke, racing with our hair on fire, trying to do wheelies at the end of the cul-de-sac of our subdivisions, and racing out to the ocean deck from time to time while we were cadets at Embry-Riddle. This loss is tragic. I know he's resting up in heaven with my dad. I hope they're sharing a beer and racing motorcycles still, and the memories will last forever. So know that we're here for you always, ladies, and Kevin will never be forgotten. He was a son, a husband, a father, airman warrior, and it was truly an honor to know him. Thank you.
Kevin started his military pilot career at Columbus Air Force Base. On his first solo flight, Kevin took a bird strike directly to his windshield, obliterating his forward visibility. An instructor who was flying in the pattern that evening had to come alongside Kevin on his wingtip and guide him down to touchdown on the runway. He had a successful solo and another great story. Kevin wanted fighters, but he got C-130s. At least he got to go to the best 130 assignment in the Air Force, back to his hometown, Anchorage, Alaska. We got paid to sightsee Alaska from the air and tool around the Pacific, staying in 5-star hotels. Kevin also had multiple deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. During one, he was the pilot in command of the McCrew that earned the Air Mobility Command's Doolittle Award for aircrew heroism in 2003 for a medical evacuation mission and a rocket attack that they survived. Later, he met retired Lieutenant Colonel Richard Cole, who was at the time the last remaining Doolittle Raider and had been mission commander for the raid. Colonel Cole signed Kevin's Doolittle Trophy. After Little Rock, Kevin got Gulfstream 5s to MacDill Air Force Base, where he provided 5-star service to the 4-star generals like Petraeus and Mattis. During that tour, his crew received the inaugural Alberolli Award from Gulfstream for a mission they took to several countries that ended in Stan. Kevin took a 5-year break before pursuing an airline career, first with ExpressJet and finally with JetBlue. He was so excited to achieve that dream and so proud to be a JetBlue pilot based out of Boston. We met in Alaska at the 517th when we showed up to fly together one day. He must have liked the way I told him where to go because he broke his rule and pursued a military chick. We got married on a scenic overlook in Hot Springs, Arkansas, with a handful of family and local friends. Our catering was Mean Pig Barbecue out of Cabot, Arkansas. We spent our year of courtship and our first 2 years of marriage apart because of the needs of the Air Force. But when we could get together, we had a lot of fun and had many adventures together. We went to Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Stars game, Tampa Bay Lightning, Rays, and Bucks games, the Air Force Ball as civilians, Chamber of Commerce dinners, and Office Pride retreats. We spent 10 days in Dublin, Ireland, took a tourist lap around Florida for a week. We camped out for the 12 hours of Sebring several times, and many other road trips over the 17 years. Through it all, we were partners in crime. He was the funny guy, and I was the straight man in the comedy duo. When Kevin told his stories, people would look at me to see if they could tell by my facial expression if Kevin was pulling their leg. I learned early on never to give anything away and let him spin his yarns just the way he liked. Thank you for coming and indulging me in talking at length and in depth about my favorite topic, Kevin J. McAdoo. In preparing today, I looked up what a eulogy is. And a eulogy is, simply put, where you say nice things about someone. It's easy to say nice things about Kevin. It's very hard to keep it brief. I could go on for years about Kevin, but you have your own lives to live, people to love, and memories to make. So I've done my best to keep it short. I'm so glad that I've had a year to think about Kevin before putting all this together. I have really had the benefit of reflecting on the Kevin-shaped hole left in the fabric of our lives by his physical departure. So far, you have seen and heard an overview of the cool milestones that mark the course of Kevin's storied path on this earth. All kinds of unique challenges came his way, and he would ruefully say it was just his luck. And I would say that this is why he had so many great stories to tell, and he did. Anyone who knew Kevin knew that he was a storyteller. As good as a factual account of his many adventures would have been, Kevin always made the story much more dramatic in its retelling. Sometimes, when you stick to only the facts of a story, you end up with, well, I guess you had to be there, response from the listener who just didn't get the sense of a story as if they had lived it. So Kevin would play up the story so his listeners could themselves feel as if they too had been there. As his wife and straight man in the comedy duo, people would often look to me to see which part of his stories were factually true and which were dramatized for their enjoyment. I learned to flash an inscrutable Mona Lisa smile and let him go. He never strayed too far from the facts anyway. His life really was pretty wild. Kevin McAdoo was the kind of guy who had your back, whether you found yourself outnumbered in a fight, or so I'm told, or you were laying in a crumpled mess at the bottom of a steep hill you had taken too fast for your first pair of rollerblades, or you'd been stuck with a dirty job no one else would show up to. You could always count on Kevin to stand with you and offer both moral support and his broad shoulders. Kevin McAdoo was the kind of guy who followed his passions with the enthusiasm of a child on Christmas morning. Does anyone not know that he was the Dallas Cowboys' #1 fan? Or Dallas Stars hockey, or Corvette racing, or Suzuki motocross, or hunting, fishing, or flying? Kevin McAdoo was equally as comfortable in the woods in a tree stand as he was sipping a grande caramel latte at Starbucks. He was a man's man who also knew how to set a proper place setting and which fork to use for what. Kevin was a man who knew what he wanted. He sometimes took the long way around at getting it, but throughout his life, he picked out a goal and went after it until he got it. A great example is becoming a pilot. He thought he was doing that when he enlisted in the Navy right out of high school. The recruiter told him just to let them know when he showed up at basic training that he wanted to be a pilot, and they would take care of him. If that wasn't the tallest tale ever told. Of course, the drill instructors made merciless fun of him when he told them he was there to be a pilot. But they lacked imagination. He served his 4 years in the Navy with honor and distinction, and then raced to Embry-Riddle as fast as his feet could fly to get his degree, mission, and pilot slot. Kevin wanted a Corvette. He owned 3. He wanted a motorcycle. Yep, a few of those too. A chopper? Check. Many people dream of doing things, and they hem and they haw about what they would like to do or have, but they end up living with regrets. Kevin just went and made it happen. No regrets. Kevin was funny. He was always the entertainer, the class clown. He liked to make a lot of jokes, and he was usually the butt of his own jokes and funny stories, free entertainment. He was the kind of a person who knew no stranger. It was always his mission to find something in common with the people that he met and to make them smile. You might be surprised to know how thoughtful and romantic he was. He proposed to me by creating a detailed scavenger hunt complete with a dozen sets of rhyming clues and roses, which was so perfect for me as an English major and a mystery buff. As you could see from the pictures how devoted a dad he was. After retiring from the military, Kevin sacrificed his career and money to be home every night with his girls and walk them to and from school. Even though he was a man of few words outside of his many stories, I have no doubt how he felt about us and the love, care, and support, hopes, and dreams he had for us. Nothing of any consequence was ever left unsaid or unknown. So this good dude died, tragically swept up in the COVID pandemic, one of the first before people really knew how to protect themselves from this awful virus. What are we supposed to do with this tragedy? What is the reason behind this happening? What purpose does this serve that a good man should die so early? I've had a year to ponder what it's all about, and this is what I've come to so far. First, death is not reasonable. It cannot be deduced logically. You can say what happened and state factual circumstances that led to a death, but that will still not give you the underlying why. The time and manner of our death is as inexplicable as the time and manner of our improbable emergence into this world. But once we have come into being, death is inevitable, though we cannot forecast how or when. It is the one given known of life. What we can do is decide what we're going to do when a close death reminds us of our mortality. Our grief over Kevin's death is nothing I ever could have imagined. Nothing causes you to question everything you knew or believed, like losing someone so close to you. You lose patience for people and things that waste your precious time on this earth. You have trouble filtering out your truth just to be polite. You start to examine what is important to you and to make changes in your life to cut out nonsense and live more authentically. You feel like you've lost everything already, so you dispense with convention. Aside from my children, what more can I lose? And what else is important? Nothing material on this earth. Once you strip away all that is impermanent in this life, you find that your foundation is not a job, not a house, not money, not anything in this world that you can hold in your hands. It is the love, and the love is permanent. It can't be taken away. Kevin poured all his love and attention into us, and we can never lose that. It is on that love that we build our todays and our tomorrows. I know that he would want the very best of all of us who knew him, and that he would want nothing less for us than to find our highest purpose in this life and to pursue it with vigor. So my wish for you is that you give your love, support, and care to those around you, because that is all that really matters in the end. Go light up the world around you like Kevin did. Make connections with people and make them smile too. Now, the other reason I'm glad I've had a year to live as Kevin's widow is so I could tell you how we're getting on. When Kevin died, we became untethered to any notion of who we might have become, what we might do, where we might live. Experiencing Kevin's death sent me on a spiritual life transformation. I was literally taken down to the foundation and asked to build life back up. Unlike when you do this at 18, I do this now with all the knowledge and experience one gains by age 45, and with the indelible influence Kevin had on my life over the nearly 20 years I had the pleasure and benefit of doing life with him. I am tremendously grateful for him, for the fun and laughter, the shoulder-to-shoulder support, the learning we did together, the adventures, the love, and the life we built together. Kevin left us in a strong position emotionally and financially, so that all we had to do was grieve him and figure out how to rebuild our lives. We knew he loved us and was proud of us and wanted only the best for us. Kevin worked so hard to impart so much of his love and care into us that to honor him, we're going to do nothing short of living our best lives. It's what he'd be encouraging us to do if he were here. It's what he always did. He was our biggest supporter. We've now had a year of second firsts. First birthdays and holidays without Kevin. First neighborhood walk. First day coming home from work and seeing the truck in the driveway and realizing that it doesn't mean that he is home. First major appliances breaking. First snowstorms to clear. And we've survived it all and grown as people, finding new capabilities out of necessity. We will always be learning how to live life without Kevin for the rest of our lives. But the lessons do seem to get smaller as we go. The girls and I are fine. We miss him every day, but we're not destroyed. We're going to do whatever the heck we want, go wherever we want to go, because that's how we McAdoos roll. For the time being, we're going to sit tight in New Hampshire in the nest that we feathered with him as we grow into our next chapter. So last, I want to thank all of you for the support you have given our family since Kevin died. From all the different phases of our life, you have come alongside to make us feel loved and to show that we didn't just imagine how great Kevin was, but you felt it too. So here's to Kevin. And here's to all of us who loved him dearly and miss him. May we remember him fondly and keep smiling.
or anything, if you guys want to say any last words or anything like that. We have a pretty awesome.
The C-130 aircraft is the workhorse of the U.S. Air Force. 97 feet long, 38 feet high, a 132-foot wingspan with a takeoff weight of 155,000 pounds. In the Air Force, piloting a C-130 is the best way to see the world. Flying a C-130 may not seem as glamorous as piloting an F-15 at Mach 2, but there is plenty of adventure. Welcome to the beautiful Japanese island of Okinawa, a typical stop for C-130 pilots on the 517 Airlift Squadron.
It'd be cool just to say, fly the biggest plane in the world.
On this hot July day, Lieutenant Kevin McAdoo and Lieutenant John Chan, both based out of Anchorage, find themselves passing time on a runway at Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa.
Flew yesterday, didn't you? That's all Brano, huh?
McAdoo is a co-pilot and Chan a future pilot, now a navigator.
Time to earn a paycheck. Get to work.
McAdoo and Chan, like thousands of other airmen and women, are charged with the responsibility of protecting America through the skies.
They said that there's going to be like a front in between Korea and Okinawa. Once we pass it, it'll be clear.
But McAdoo and Chan couldn't have come from more different backgrounds. John Chan's mother, 3 months pregnant with him inside, swam across the China Sea escaping communism. 26 years later, her son serves in the U.S. military protecting democracy.
This is the best country in the world. My parents escaped communist country just so that, the kids can have a better life, which, I am definitely grateful for.
Alaska's my home. Kevin McAdoo's beginnings are less dramatic. McAdoo is a former Diamond High student, grew up in Anchorage. He's a local kid made good, now seeing the world as a C-130 pilot.
Being born and raised in Alaska, thought that's where I'd be my entire life. So,
pretty exciting.
And definitely, every day is an adventure.
McAdoo and Chan fly regular missions out of Yokota Air Force Base outside of Tokyo.
We'll take off at 4. We're not going to make it.
After their day in Okinawa, they find themselves loaded with passengers and cargo heading to Osan Air Force Base.
And you have to take off checklist.
It's one of the true hotspots in the world along the north and south border of Korea.
Go with the street vendor. The Kalamari Street, good.
It's a several-hour flight from Okinawa to Korea, a long, loud, and bumpy ride. Just a typical day at the office for McAdoo and Chan.
Another day in paradise.
Checking out a night in Korea. This is the glory part of piloting a C-130, experiencing different worlds, cultures, and food. McAdoo and Chan and their crew buddies are out for a good time. So is crew leader Captain Brian Hill. But it's Hill's job to make sure his crew does not overdo it.
You've probably seen the past couple of days how much time we actually spend together. It's pretty much a 24-hour affair. Not just planning missions and flying, but time down as well.
Captain Hill is clearly the crew's leader. Not just in rank, his men look up to him. McAdoo and Chan say having a strong leader like Hill helps the crew work as a team and enjoy downtime.
You guys want to go see Oak, Mr. Oak? I need to tomorrow morning. Yeah, I got a... Yeah, same here. Got a bunch of stuff I need to give him.
For Airmen Kevin McAdoo and John Chan, this is a good life. Two men from different worlds now together seeing the world, doing what they enjoy, all while maintaining a sense of what they do is important, protecting democracy.